All right, so I've been wanting to shoot this video for a while, and this is going to be, I'm going to call it a simulation, if you will. I want to point out a couple things about the election, and one of them is this. I actually have access to all 1,326 different official ballots for all of Allegheny County on my computer. We actually were able to find these online and download them one at a time, complete with the markings and everything else. You theoretically would be able to simply print this on the right kind of paper and turn it in as a completed ballot. As far as we can tell, these are genuine, actual ballots that were available on, I believe it was the Secretary of State's website. And we found one, and we're basically able to substitute. There was a number over here in parentheses, and basically able to substitute a number. And we found everywhere from 1 all the way up to, I think it was 1326 or 1325. Each one was a different precinct with a different precinct number, different stuff down here, etc. So problem number one is simply the fact that we were able to find all of these ballots online in Pennsylvania, which is, of course, one of the contested states. If we could find them, lots of other people could too, and that's utterly problematic. But let's ignore that for a minute. I'm simply going to use this as something that is instructional. So I'm going to come over here, and the first thing I'm going to do, I want to show you a 1 minute and 29-second video shot by a woman who is showing us how the Dominion software does adjudication. Now, this isn't about like the magical vote switching, which I think we've seen happened, or a lot of other things. This is simply one of the avenues that the system leaves open, especially if the people running adjudication are the types of people who are inclined to, fudge the numbers a little bit. And then I want to show you what a 2% switch to Joe Biden from Donald Trump would look like in adjudication. So here is her video first.
No, wait just a minute. I want to go and,
So this is the adjudication panel, and a little word about this. Now, we actually found, or the people doing the research have found, that as many as 68% of ballots scanned in some areas, I've heard even higher than that in a few precincts, but basically 2 out of 3 ballots in a lot of places were going to adjudication. So normally what should happen, like a Scantron test at school, if you ever took those sorts of tests, you fill in the bubbles, it goes in the machine reads the bubble, assuming it's filled in pretty well, which is, of course, why they give you information about how to make your selection, etc. And then they simply get run and they get tabulated. I mean, that really is as difficult as this should be. It should be really simply this is a vote for Joe Biden, this is a vote for Donald Trump, this is a vote for George Jorgensen, etc., 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 which should be very, very simple. Now, sometimes people make mistakes, and it is, I think, an important thing that you can have a machine that can say, hey, there's an error here, we need to adjudicate something. And so what this lady is showing us is when one of these comes up for adjudication, what the process actually looks like. And the problem is, anybody has access, and she'll explain this, anyone has access to adjudication who was working the field. So you wouldn't even take a big conspirator. You could take one person who wanted to make a difference, and they can adjudicate one at a time or even in batches. And it wouldn't take a lot to make a big difference. So that's what we're seeing right here. So I'm going to go back here and let her show it. Let me see if I can get the resolution on this. This is not the highest quality, sorry. But you'll get the gist of it anyway.
I think I want to vote for Jason Shaw. They didn't vote that ballot a while ago. There wasn't nothing there. I think we need to vote for him. And I'm going to complete it. Confirm ballot, save, move to next ballot. Okay. So it pulls up the next ballot that needs to be adjudicated.
So you made a vote for someone where someone did not vote?
I did, didn't I?
And you're the election supervisor?
I'm the election supervisor. I am the person that sits and does the adjudication. Yes, sir?
Go back to the Trump and Biden race and decide, since both are marked, you just count one of them and not count the other one? Can you decide?
Let's see. Yep, sure can. I think I want to vote for Biden. Let's let Biden win this one.
So what you put supersedes whatever.
Uh-huh.
So you...
But I decided this Al, he don't deserve no votes. Let's not let nobody vote for that. And complete. Okay. Well, here's another one. I don't think any votes need to vote on this ballot. I think this really
And so in this ballot, what you just saw is she literally took off. It didn't matter if this was an area that got flagged or not. So any ballot that got flagged for adjudication, the people who are watching adjudication can make edits. Now, in a perfect world, there would be, representatives from at least both of the major parties and ideally an independent as well, watching this adjudication process happen. There would be an audit trail that would show what has happened in the process, but that's simply not the case. And in fact, once they've made this change, finding this, tracing this back to what happened is essentially impossible. So here is a simulation that I figured would be kind of interesting, and I'm going to adjudicate these in person. Now, obviously, I don't have the real access to the Dominion software, right? But I'm going to go ahead and just pretend like we have that. So here we have a vote for Joseph Biden. It got kicked to adjudication. You know what? We're going to call that a vote for Joe Biden. Click, click. Here's a vote for Donald Trump. We're going to go Donald Trump. Click, click. And here's another one for Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Joe Biden. Now, this is a lot faster because the way that I'm doing this, obviously, we're not going through multiple screens and multiple clicks and everything else. So we'll call this one for Joe Biden. Joe Biden. I should have made these more random so they bounce around the screen. This isn't going to be as impressive because it's going to look a little more static, I guess. But that's what happens when you try and throw together an example. So what are we in? We're 7 in. So this is Donald Trump. Yeah, we'll call it Trump. 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 Biden. 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 Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. Biden. Trump. Trump. Biden. 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 Trump. 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 Biden. 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 And that's the end of them right there. Okay, so I just adjudicated in pretend 100 ballots. Now, did you catch the switch? I actually lied, well, unintentionally. I mistakenly did this when I did this, but early on I didn't realize I was actually shifting because they weren't moving at all. Again, what I should have done is had this like this, and then I would have moved this one over a little bit, and I would move this one over a little bit, and I would move this one over a little bit, and move this one over a little bit, and then that way we would have seen a little more differentiation in the patterns and everything else. But again, this was a hastily thrown together process. But at the very beginning, what I actually wound up doing was deleting 2 different Trump votes and calling them Biden votes, which would take 2 from Trump and add 2 to Joe Biden. So actually, that wasn't a 2% shift at all. That was a 4% shift because it was down 2 for Trump and up 2 for Biden. So that is actually a bigger shift than I meant to show. So here is a slightly better version of what I should have done, just so you can see, because each one's going to come up a little bit different. So this would be Biden, and then this would be Trump, and then Trump, and then Biden, and then Biden, and then Biden, and then Trump, and then Trump, and then Trump. And so again, but the point is, all I got to do is if I miss one. So this one right here is for Donald Trump. If I say that one's for Biden, and I go on and everything else that I do is correct, I've made a 2-point, if every single other one of these is correct, I've made a 2-point change out of this 100 ballot batch. And that's not to mention the fact that this lady goes on to show in other videos that you can adjudicate entire batches, just drag and drop entire files from the adjudication file. There also was a big hullabaloo a while back about what they called Sharpiegate, and it looked like it was a big deal at first, and then it looked like nothing. And the concept was they informed people in, I believe it was Maricopa County, that the people filling out early ballots needed to use ballpoint pens, but they were saving the Sharpies for the day of election. And then the one of the ballots said do not use Sharpie on it, but these people were being given a Sharpie. But then they were shown that it was actually the case that when you run a Sharpie correctly, it actually does go through and it gets read. But what actually wound up happening, it looks like, is the Sharpie would trigger more often than not the adjudication process. And so since we knew statistically Biden voters were more likely to vote early and Trump voters were more likely to vote on election day, simply by triggering a higher rate of adjudication on election day, again, between 60 and 90% in some areas, which is utterly baffling. In fact, there's one guy in Georgia where the guy in charge of elections came out and said, we've processed in the recount 116,000 votes and we've adjudicated 109. That was like a 90 some odd percent adjudication rate, right? And whenever you're adjudicating, you're letting a third person get in between the voter and the artifact of their vote, which is the ballot that they cast, and then how their vote is actually tabulated or tallied, right? And that's a problem. That's a huge problem because, as I showed you, it was really boring watching me go through and go Biden, Biden, Trump, 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 Biden, Biden, Trump, Trump, Biden, 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 Trump, Trump, Biden, 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 Trump, Trump, Biden, 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 Trump. And that's not even accounting for error. I just missed one in there on purpose. I don't know if you even caught it. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But if somebody wasn't watching exactly what you're doing, and again, this is just 100 ballots. This is boring as all get out, right? But if someone isn't watching and double checking, it is super easy to just every so often go, yeah, that's a Biden actually. Yeah, that's a Biden. Trump, 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 Biden, 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 Trump, 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 Biden, Biden, Biden. Yeah, that's a Biden, right? And literally, if I did that every 20 or 30 ballots, you're looking at a 5 to 6 point swing in the ballots that I am adjudicating if I'm adjudicating ballots. That is huge. Like, that's game-changing huge. Especially if 2/3 of the ballots are being adjudicated. And again, I think it was Scott Adams that pointed this out. We've spent the last 4 years hearing that Trump is Orange Hitler. Point of reference, I did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. I did not vote for Hillary Clinton either. I've never voted before 2016 before 2020 for a major party candidate because I'm a small party, small government, libertarian-minded individual, right? I never voted for Bush or Kerry. I never voted for Gore. I never voted for Obama. I didn't vote for McCain. I didn't vote for Romney. I didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I didn't vote for Hillary, right? So I'm looking at this simply as somebody who wants to make sure that the republic stands. And this is a huge problem, right? This is a huge problem. The adjudication process needs to be monitored, absolutely critically needs to be monitored, because it is so easy for one little change to get in there and make all of the difference. Anyway, I hope that you found this helpful. That's basically what I wanted to point out, is just those three things. Entire Secretary of States had entire ballots for problematic regions available online. Again, these were ballots. This is a picture I took of an actual ballot from Allegheny County. I have all of the different wards and all of the different, let me see if I can just pull up a random one here. So this is O'Hara Ward, number 2, official general election ballot, Allegheny County. You'll see different precinct number. All this stuff down here is different. I've got over 1,000 of these, right? And each one has slightly different things, right? So if they have a different representative in their area, whatnot, most of these are going to be the same, but if they had a different representative or whatnot, it's different. Obviously, different areas have double-sided ballots. Sometimes they have more things on the ballot, etc. But this was just the general election ballot that they used. But these are, as far as we can tell, actual pictures. So that's problem number 1. Anybody who had access to a printer could do this. Now, there's a gentleman whose name is Pulitzer, who just got through talking in Georgia about the different kinematic artifacts that you can find on ballots that show whether they're legitimate ballots or not, from the paper they're printed on, the ink they're using, the way that they're lined up, the type of folds they have, the type of pins they have, whether it was printed or machine done, or human written or machine scanned or machine printed, etc. Like, there's lots of different ways to do this, and purportedly the bipartisan Georgia House and Senate voted on the spot to give this guy access to 500,000 ballots or more, like 500,000 ballots that he said he could run, in an afternoon or so and let you know if they're legitimate. And immediately after that, they started getting destroyed. Like within an hour or two, there was a military grade shredding company that was turning the ballots basically into spitballs, according to Patrick Byrne, who is the founder of Overstock. He holds a doctorate. He's independently wealthy at this point, and he's been working with the Trump team. Also, according to Pulitzer, who is the same aforementioned fellow who holds hundreds of patents in his name and specializes in sort of stuff. If you didn't get a chance to watch his presentation, it's highly, highly informative, and I highly recommend you watch it. But anyway, so again, problem number one, we can find the official ballots for a lot of these places online, and if we can find them, other people can find them too. Problem number two, a lot of these places, adjudication happened way too frequently, way more than it should have happened. And problem number three is that adjudication was not monitored, and it wasn't even audited. A lot of times they were using, you'll hear them say this in the 4 to 6 to 8 hour long hearings that they've been having, that all of the workers shared the same login or common login, which means you could never even track down which worker it was who was coming in and adjudicating these ballots. And ballots could even be adjudicated and then re-adjudicated, apparently. So you can go back in and find a list of ballots that were adjudicated, and you can re-adjudicate them, but you can't see the decisions that were made on them beforehand. You simply would go through and adjudicate them again, changing the votes or whatnot. So if a couple people did that, it wouldn't take much to swing, from 1% to 10% of that vote away from one candidate and towards the other, in this case, away from Donald Trump and towards Joseph Biden, as I suspect is probably the case. And as I started to say a minute ago, if you have hundreds and hundreds of people who honestly believe, I don't think Donald Trump is Orange Hitler. In fact, I think he's been a very decent president. He's not, he's not a paean of moral virtue by any means. But I don't think he's been that bad, right? He's really not been that bad. He's, great economic numbers, peace in the Middle East, de-escalating with North Korea, etc. I don't think he's been a bad president. I think he's been on the butt end of a lot of bad press. And I think that that's really a shame for a whole host of reasons. But you have a lot of people who have spent the last 4 years engaged in a perpetual 2 minutes hate towards this man, where they think he's literally Hitler. He's Orange Hitler. And, there's a common trope, right? Would you assassinate Hitler if you can go back in time? Or would you assassinate baby Hitler if you go back in time? Well, yeah, people will ask questions that are fun sci-fi speculations, but if you could overthrow Hitler by simply fudging a couple of adjudication numbers, wouldn't you? I think it actually would be unreasonable for somebody who honestly thought that Donald Trump was Hitler, whether or not he actually is, because I don't think he was, but if you honestly, truly believed he was Hitler, to occasionally go, that's a Biden, it doesn't take much. That's a Biden. That's 2 out of this 100 batch. If I don't do anything else, that's a 4-point shift in this 100 batch of votes. That's it. That's all you got to do. And the rest of these I could do exactly right. So anybody watching me would almost always see me do it exactly right. And I just have to wait for the minute they looked away. Every single one of these, other than those 2 I just clicked on, could be right. And it's a 4-point switch from Trump to Biden. It's 2 points down from Trump and 2 points up from Biden. And again, that has nothing to do with whether or not the software is also switching numbers. It has nothing to do with fraudulent ballots, with all of these other things that are coming up. There's just so many different pockets of fraud, but this is one that I've been meaning to shoot a video on for a long time because it's really just weighing on me. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, feel free to like, share, subscribe, etc. As you do on these things. YouTube, Facebook, they may be taking down this video at some point because I'm talking about potential election fraud, but I'm simply trying to show how simple it would be to affect a 2% shift. Thank you. Let me know if in the comments if you thought this was helpful. Let me know if I totally made a big error. I'm totally open to being corrected. But currently I think this is a very problematic thing.